to another episode of The Silicon Dreams on Radio Zindagi 1550 AM. Joining me today in the studio, we have Varun, who has an illustrious career, not just looking at products and innovations in the Web3 realm, but he has been in the legal field for well over a decade, 2 decades now, and we are extremely thrilled to have Varun join us here in the studio on the Silicon Dreams, as today we are going to break down the history of Bitcoin and its journey today. We are going to talk about where BTC started, and where it is today with the launch of the recent ETFs. And if you are not aware of these recent Bitcoin ETFs, don't worry, because we are going to be breaking it all down today. So Varun, welcome to the show. This is your show host, Sonia, the founder and CEO of Orbis 86. And Varun, before we move ahead, I would love for you to talk to our audiences and give a 30-second intro of your background.
Great. Thank you so much, Sonia. Really a pleasure to join you on the show. I'm a U.S. corporate and securities lawyer for over 25 years. Have worked in New York City, grew up on Wall Street, and lived in Europe for 10 years, and then most recently in the Bay Area for 10 years. And I've in my career, I've always been gravitated towards new technologies, new things. And about 10 years ago, I came into Bitcoin as the chief legal officer for a company here in the Bay Area. And I love the law. I love the crypto industry, and look forward to talking to you about this area. And let me give a small disclaimer as well. These are what I'm going to say is my own. It's not advice or tax advice or investment advice, etc. On behalf of any companies I'm affiliated with. Thank you.
Thanks for the disclaimer, Varun. Again, guys, the Silicon Dreams is an informational show. We do not give out any financial advice on the show. However, what we do here, and I think we do a good job at that, is bring awareness to the masses on what Web3 and AI is about. And after that, guys, it is literally your decision to go and investigate further, whether you're looking at Web3 and AI as just technology layers, or whether you're looking at them as investment vehicles. So again, the views expressed on this program, it's the views of the program host and the guests here. And as Varun said, not of any other entities that we are associated with. And by the way, nobody is paying us to be on the show. So we are here to just have fun. And again, whatever little knowledge we have, share that with the audiences, the lovely audiences who are listening to the Silicon Dreams today. Now, with that, Varun, let's just start talking about Bitcoin, right? When Bitcoin launched back in 2009, the first white paper came out in 2008. And in 2010, 2011, the price of Bitcoin was 10 cents, $0.1, right? For a while it was 10 cents, and then suddenly it went from 0.1 to 0.2, and everybody was like, look at that. And before you know, by 2014, 2015, Bitcoin was at $100. And today, Bitcoin is at $50,000, right? So what even resulted in this phenomena? Is it just a bunch of people going like crazy over that? Or is there some real logic to it? And we are very glad, by the way, to have somebody from the legal landscape present with us, because many a times when we just have young 20-year-olds on the show, people are like, oh, these guys are just degens, right? But you have seen the world, and I would love to hear about it from your lenses, because you also have a very unique perspective on what Bitcoin is when it comes to Bitcoin being a storage of value. I'd love to hear your thoughts on
it. Sonia, that is a great question. And I came into Bitcoin when I was already a lawyer for 17 years, including as a partner at a major law firm. So I was taking companies public. I was a securities lawyer, and I was a skeptic. I was a very big skeptic. In 2014, I watched the hearings that I think one of the first hearings in Congress where people were questioning what is Bitcoin, etc. And I've had my own personal Bitcoin journey, right? I was a skeptic. I was working in a Bitcoin company, but over the 10 years, I've come to realize that Bitcoin is very hard to characterize. And the parable that you might have already heard of, right? Three blind men touch an elephant, and one touches the tail, one touches the side, and one touches the tusk, and they all think they have touched something that they have experienced, but it's neither. It's none of them can get it right, and that's unfortunately or fortunately is what is Bitcoin. It is one of the amazing technological innovations that by luck or by design has put together so many different areas, basically starting with a very, very interesting technology, code base. It's an open source code base. So in 10 years, the smartest people in the world haven't been able to hack Bitcoin and it's open source, right? So anybody who's anybody, the smartest engineers in the world can read the open source code and say, well, I'm going to hack Bitcoin, but they haven't been able to. The structure, the architecture of combining cryptography, combining proof of work, and having it launched over the internet. All these things were precursors to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin could not have existed until we had a very, very good internet, until we had very, very good cryptography, until we had, very interesting people who said, hey, let's incorporate proof of work and game theory into this system. So there are so many ways to describe Bitcoin, but initially even the Satoshi white paper said it's just a peer-to-peer payment system. But then somebody said, hey, I'm going to collect these tokens. And then somebody else said, well, I'm going to create a place where these tokens can be traded. And all of a sudden, we were trading tokens and price was going from pennies to thousands of dollars. So Bitcoin continues to evolve. And again, like I said, it's a code base that has had various improvements over even the short 10, 12 years of its life. And there have been bugs and they have been solved. So it is a organic, growing code base. Innovations continue to be built on top of it. But I think you have to go back and really marvel at whoever's the Satoshi or the group of people who said, let's put together these disparate things.
So just for context, nobody knows who is the creator of Bitcoin. There are a lot of speculations, but no one has been able to put their finger on and say it is this guy or this girl or this group that created Bitcoin. So the rise of Bitcoin or the creation of Bitcoin is attributed to a white paper that was released back in 2008. Mm-hmm. The author of that white paper was Satoshi Nakamoto, and that was obviously a pseudonym. Now, whom did that pseudonym represent? Nobody has been able to crack that, just like nobody has been able to hack into Bitcoin. Yes, we are looking at very strong cryptography here. There have been speculations that with quantum computing, people might be able to hack, but there's also a big movement towards creating quantum computing safe cryptographic methods. So I think, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But sorry to interrupt you. Just wanted to give people a context that, the Satoshi name that we're referring to, why do we sound so uncertain?
And so many people ask me, and what I would, one thing I'd like to mention, there is no company called Bitcoin. So there is no CEO or the founder or CTO of Bitcoin. It is a completely open, decentralized community that, again, because of the excitement around how this was architectured and how it grew, people have come together and have promoted it, have developed on it. But that's a very, very interesting fact, right? A typical Bay Area startup has a CEO, has financiers, and has, all kinds of folks who are trying to build something. But this has been built completely in the open by people who don't know each other, by people who are sitting on, every continent, maybe except for Antarctica, and it works. So it
It
is something
works.
unique. Yeah.
And also the idea of decentralization, right? Quite often we hear it. But as you said, just like Bitcoin doesn't have a CEO or a central group of authorities who
Mhm,
are
mhm,
responsible for Bitcoin,
mhm, mhm,
similarly, Bitcoin is also like the whole Bitcoin, the blockchain isn't hosted on any single server.
mhm,
So,
mhm,
as
mhm,
long as there is at least one person somewhere running a node for Bitcoin, Bitcoin will alive. And today will stay alive. And as we know today, we have thousands of people. So, the
mhm,
folks that we often refer to as miners
mhm,
are
mhm,
technically people who are providing services, computational services to help support the network.
mhm,
So
mhm,
when we look at how it is deployed, it's basically a network of thousands of computers, thousands of computing machines
mhm, mhm,
connected to each other over the internet.
mhm,
And as long as at least one of this machine is up and alive,
mhm,
Bitcoin survives. But
mhm,
more importantly, as long as we have this network of thousands of computers working to solve the problem,
mhm, mhm,
that also makes it really hard to hack into the network, because
mhm,
now
mhm,
anyone who wants to hack into the network has to get access to more than 50% of these computers to
mhm.
be able to manipulate anything, and that's no easy task.
Yeah, exactly. And this is again very interesting about Bitcoin is that these uh, Bitcoin nodes, and a lot of people estimate them to be something like in the order of about 50,000 independent Bitcoin nodes in the world. And again, we go back to the architecture of Bitcoin. Why are these people so incentivized to record the correct transactions on the blockchain, right? So blockchain ledger is a ledger and it records every transaction and it records every transaction correctly. And it has done that for 10 years without a single fault. So why does it work? And our program is too short to explain, but again, this is one of the innovations where the person or the group of people who put together this architecture designed it with not just programming in mind, but with real economic theory, with game theory, to design it in a way that every player in the system of mining is incentivized to come to the right conclusion, to come to the right, recording the right transactions, and to have consensus amongst them. So again, all the fact that we have the internet is like a prerequisite, right? That's the only way for these thousands of miners to talk and agree on a consensus and to do this proof of work that is needed to prove that they are worthy enough to be able to record a transaction, and in return for which miners earn Bitcoin. And that's really the innovative part, one of the innovative parts of Bitcoin, and that's the reason why it works. Yeah.
Thanks, Varun. So, as we move ahead in our segment, after Bitcoin in 2012-13, we had Ethereum that
Mhm,
became the second favorite child, or the second favorite heartbeat, right, of everyone in the crypto economy. What new innovation did Ethereum add to
mhm,
the
mhm.
Web3 ecosystem?
Yeah, so Ethereum, and I recall when it was trying to do its ICO, I was in a Bitcoin company, and we were like Bitcoin maximalist, meaning that we just thought Bitcoin is it and everything else is crap.
It's the alpha and the omega.
But Ethereum proved us wrong because Ethereum introduced this concept of programming the blockchain so that you can write smart contracts and deploy them in this virtual machine on the blockchain so that when you are moving a token on this blockchain, you can actually automate it. You can just write a simple logic on the blockchain that says if X equals Y, then do Z. So this ability to program the blockchain and to launch smart contracts, which again are all immutable, all get recorded, all transactions get recorded, And Ethereum also started with proof of work, so it was very similar in that respect to Bitcoin. But it it caught on. Now, of course, the way, unfortunately, Bitcoin has been acknowledged by the SEC as not being a security. However, Bitcoin was unique in the sense that it grew organically. Every project afterwards, every project of import afterward has had to have an ICO, meaning initial coin offering, and that's including Ethereum, where they said, hey, in order to raise money, we're going to offer Ethereum in an initial coin offering, and then unfortunately, that is a indication of security. It's a criteria that yes, the project raised money in order to fund itself, and that's kind of one of the original sins of Ethereum, which of course you can't take away. And there's been a lot of discussion. One SEC commissioner said, no, I think Ethereum is okay now, and then the next set of commissioners said, no, we don't think Ethereum has kind of gotten rid of its original sin. But that's kind of but I think maybe even moving the conversation forward, right? We have the Bitcoin ETF, but the next big exciting thing that we're all waiting for in the crypto space is that there will be, and I'm pretty confident that there will be, Ethereum ETF, and maybe tens of combinations. If somebody wants 50% exposure to Bitcoin, 50% exposure to Ethereum, then there will be a ETF that will
Provide them with
weight,
both.
weight the investment 50-50. So
So before we go ahead any further, right, I'm pretty sure that a lot of our listeners who are savvy investors, even just a little bit savvy, they have obviously come across ETFs, and some of the more popular mainstream ETF names that our listeners might have heard are ETFs like S&P 500 or the Dow Jones Index, DJI, right? But for others who may not be as savvy, can we start by just quickly talking about what are ETFs?
Sure. And Sonia, you probably know more about ETFs than I do. I've been so focused on crypto for the last 10 years, but ETFs are basically fully regulated mutual funds, but rather than holding a portfolio of investments that are kind of managed, right? You have a manager picking this or that, selling, buying. ETFs are focused on only one index or one asset. So you have, S&P ETFs. You have QQQ is focused on the NASDAQ index. And now we have about 10 brand new Bitcoin ETFs that are only focused on Bitcoin. So when you're buying into an ETF through normal, traditional stock exchanges, infrastructure brokers, your Fidelity relationships, Vanguard, etc., you are able to buy a Bitcoin ETF through normal channels, fully regulated channels. But when you are buying ETF, you're simply buying into the pool of Bitcoin that ETF holds.
So that is great, because that was going to be my next question, right? Like, we have 10 Bitcoin ETFs that were approved. They received like an expedited approval, in fact, right, in Jan of this year. And since then, we have had about these ETFs, these 10 ETFs account for 4% of the total market cap of Bitcoin. As of today, the market cap of Bitcoin is over 1 trillion. And the overall market cap of crypto is over 2 trillion, but Bitcoin alone accounts for half of that market cap, right?
Correct.
And these ETFs account for about 4% or close to 40 billion of a $1 trillion economy of Bitcoin. So my question is going to be that, hey, you already have access to Bitcoin. You can go and buy Bitcoin on traditional crypto exchanges, but you also have more traditional regular investing platforms like Robinhood, etc., as well, that now offer you the ability to buy Bitcoin. So what are the advantages of the ETFs? Because even when you're buying into an ETF, you're technically, as you said, right, you are buying into a pool of Bitcoin. So when I buy And let us just also, I'll quickly touch
Mm-hmm.
upon the names of the top three, or maybe, you can give us those names, Varun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we are saying that there are 10 ETFs, but
Mm-hmm.
there
Mm-hmm.
are a couple of names that everybody has heard, right? So you want to talk maybe about the top three BTC ETFs that are there, and
Mm-hmm.
then also address this question as to how is it different from buying into Bitcoin, and how would these ETFs make a difference in the near future?
Mm-hmm. Sure, sure, Sonia. So the top three ETFs currently are Grayscale, BlackRock, and Fidelity. So obviously, everybody I'm sure has heard of BlackRock and Fidelity because they have something like I didn't look up the number, but probably trillions of dollars under management. They are very very big Wall Street players who've been around for many years.
So BlackRock
Uh,
alone has $10 trillion of
okay.
assets under management. I just looked up the figure, by the way, right?
Okay. Now, Grayscale is uh, is unusual because they are a very, very, very successful company in the crypto space, and one of the, their founder Barry Silbert, who I've met, is a very, very successful entrepreneur, and he had the idea, even 10 years ago, to create basically like an alternative to ETF where it's a trust structure. You buy shares in the trust. After a certain period of time, you can trade them, but the trust holds Bitcoin. So conceptually, it's very similar to an ETF. So his organization, Grayscale, has been around for 10 years. And when the SEC gave the go-ahead, they allowed Grayscale also to convert their trust into a more traditional ETF structure. So anyway, so they've had a 10-year start, and they had something like $30 billion in Bitcoin already in their trust. So what's happening now is a little bit of is a rebalancing, right? So you've got the big player. Yes, they're losing some deposits because people are interested in buying into the BlackRock and the Fidelity ETFs, which might offer a little bit more better fee structure, so less fees. They're bigger players, right? They've got their marketing, juggernauts out there telling, all their advisory relationships to buy into these ETFs. So yeah, so we're seeing a little bit of a rebalancing, but GBTC, which is the ticker for Grayscale's Bitcoin ETF, is still, I think, holds something like $20 billion of has an overall value of 20 billion of Bitcoin, and I think BlackRock's iShare has about 5 billion or 6 billion, and then Fidelity has another 5 billion. So those are the three big players currently. Now, Sonia, your second question of why buy an ETF versus just buying on Coinbase, I think it's a very fair question. In general, like I'm very comfortable operating my Fidelity account as well as operating my Coinbase account, but some people may not be. They may not want to start, if they're already holding stocks and bonds through traditional means, through traditional brokerage accounts. For them, it's just very, very easy now to buy a Bitcoin ETF. And to have comfort that this is a SEC approved product. Um, of course, some of the drawbacks of that is that your entire holding is now visible to the broker, to other people in the chain, and you can never kind of get your Bitcoin out, right? If you really wanted to, and I don't want to like start a whole another
I know
uh,
we could go down the rabbit hole
yeah
here, but
thread here.
just to simplify what you're
Yeah,
saying, right?
yeah.
If I hold Bitcoin and I want to send Bitcoin to anyone in the world, as long as they have an eligible wallet, I can easily do that. But if I hold a GBTC, which is a representation or rather a buy-in into the pool of Bitcoin
Yes.
held by
Uh-huh.
Grayscale,
Mm.
I cannot just go and say that, oh, I have some Bitcoin and just transfer it to someone
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
So it takes that away and it makes it a very traditional investment asset
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
investing in ETF.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
maybe one of the
Yeah.
drawbacks. But then, as
Yeah.
we discussed, there are also pros to
Yeah.
it, right?
Well, so going back to my earlier discussion of why Bitcoin took off, right? It obviously there was a need, and this is a whole separate discussion, but Bitcoin is pseudonymous, meaning that other than that public address where your Bitcoin sits, nobody knows who's behind that public address. So people craved for that privacy that I think we started to lose after 9/11, right? And people crave for some of that privacy. And so when you buy, Bitcoin directly, whether it's on Coinbase or some other platform, you have the ability to move that Bitcoin into a brand new wallet that nobody knows about. So that's a very, interesting factoid about having Bitcoin, right? You can be very anonymous.
Absolutely. So, you can remain anonymous. And besides that, just to give a quick thought, a quick perspective of how the markets are right now, the Bitcoin market, as we said, it's a 1 trillion market cap. And then Varun, thanks for sharing these figures with me earlier today. But we know that Apple sits on 3 trillion market cap. But Apple's 24-hour trading volume is like 20 billion or 10 billion rather,
10 billion,
and
yep.
Bitcoin is generally in the range of 20 to 30 billion. So with one third the market cap of Apple, it actually does twice in terms of the trading volume. So that just shows how much liquidity is there. Plus, the Bitcoin market is a 24/7 market, right? You can trade it at any time. So there is a lot of liquidity, even for people who are looking at it just from an investment aspect. And there is great technology backing it for people who want to really use it. It also removes issues that we face with remittances and stuff, because anyone anywhere in the world can now transact with each other in a matter of few seconds. And we will continue this conversation, hopefully over another segment. Before we conclude, Varun, I would love for you to talk about your role at Casper, and also your role as the CEO of Varun Gupta Law.
Great. Yeah. So I devote a lot of time to Casper Labs, where I've been involved for 5 years. And at Casper Labs, we launched our own, you could say, version of Ethereum. So we had a market cap of currently of something like $500 million. The Casper token trades, and it had gone up to about 2 billion. So very successful token. But the blockchain itself is purpose-built for enterprise use cases. So we made some certain decisions in the architecture that it's well-suited, and it uses Rust programming. So anyway, one of the things that I'm most excited about is that we are working with IBM. There have been public announcements where we are going to be featured as one of the solutions on their Watson X governance platform, where you will be able to, users of Watson X AI platform will be able to augment their use of the large language models deployed through Watson X to record transactions on the blockchain. And there are various kind of advantages of the blockchain in that context, especially like
So again, if people are not aware, Watson is a flagship AI product of IBM, and IBM has been working on Watson since even before generative AI became the new favorite baby of the internet. The Watson platform for AI has been IBM's flagship platform for well over a decade or 2 decades now. And IBM's Watson has also won championships against former Go players and whatnot. So it has been in the market for well over 2 decades, I would say.
Yeah. So very briefly, we will be providing a blockchain backend, so to speak, for that platform, so that users of large language models will be able to basically have like end-to-end data integrity and auditability, so that transactions, what is being fed into the large language model can be timestamped on the blockchain. You can have version control timestamped onto the blockchain. You can also, typically blockchain systems involve multiple parties, so it's very easy to, again, timestamp what multiple parties did in a blockchain. So all of that is being built so that it will work on the Watson AI governance platform.
So this is a great example of how AI governance can be built on top of blockchain. And again, blockchain is immutable. So tomorrow, when it comes to a point where, we see that there are mistakes being made by AI. We see that right now too. You can go and look at the logs on blockchain to really understand what went wrong where, and nobody can actually mess around with it because it's immutable. So that's the biggest advantage of using the blockchain as a record keeping system for the AI decisions that are being made. With that, guys, Varun, it was an absolute pleasure having you here on the show. Guys, if you are interested in connecting with Varun, you can visit his website, which is vguptalaw.com. So V for Varun, vguptalaw.com. You can go and find his contact information over there. And again, Varun has been a lawyer, a traditional. He used to first work with securities. Now he's working in the crypto space and the chief legal officer of Casper Labs. Varun, it was a pleasure having you here on the show today. Thank you so much for joining us on the Silicon Dreams.
Thank you. My pleasure.